Hello, welcome to SquishiVision, where I've just watched Rings of Power Udûn. Boy, was that a graphic episode. Was not a fan of the whole stabby in the eye bit. Not really ever a fan of that. But yeah, there was a lot of gushing of bodily fluids. Oh dear, hang on, my 1 second. My calendar was falling off my wall. I think it still is, which is something to deal with in a wee spell. Let's fix that backdrop. There we go. Yeah, so this is the culmination of the kind of build-up over the last few episodes of the Numenor going to war, and the Southlanders preparing to be invaded, and Adar's orc army preparing to attack. We initially, the Southlanders get the kind of, it's actually kind of how it's, you know, almost to the point storytelling technique of you give your protagonists a win and then you kind of gradually take that win away from them. Very kind of Empire Strikes Back method of storytelling here. So Southlanders appear to get an early kind of victory where they trick the army into the tower, and then they collapse the tower on top of them. But you know, the savvy among them realise that that's probably not the end of it, and they have to prepare for a second wave of the battle. And then the orcs trick them. They send a wave of some orcs, but primarily human soldiers, the one who betrayed them in the last episode. And the Southlanders win that with kind of considerable losses. But they realise that they actually killed all of their own kin at the same time, as well as some of the orcs. And that was a bit where Arendir has to like stab an orc through the eye and then pull the knife out, and you get all this like gushing kind of blood, which I wasn't a fan of, but whatever. And then the orcs strike back and kill pretty much nearly every single kind of Southland. Well, a huge majority of it. I think the Southlanders take like heavy losses, like most of them get killed. They break into the kind of a tavern and start killing some there. And Theo eventually gives away the hilt to spare his mother's life. And oh yeah, there's a bit where they kind of have to pull out a arrow from Bronwyn and like kind of cauterize the bleeding. And a lot of gushing blood there. They're not kind of going. They're going quite bloody with the blood. Lots of gushing blood. And then at that moment, it seems like they might have actually, in fact, won with a kind of very much big damn army, big damn hero moment, which is not new to Lord of the Rings. It happened a couple of times in the films with the Numenors arriving in time to like fight off the army, but Adar kind of does a little switcheroo and gives the sword to the traitor guy, and even though he gets captured, his plan goes to motion. We get kind of a bit more backstory between Halbrand. Why can't I remember any of these characters' names? Halbrand and Adar. Adar can't remember, but Halbrand had like an encounter with him before. And Galadriel's trying to torture some information out of him about Sauron. He claims to kill Sauron, which is interesting. Also, Halbrand seems like perfectly fine with being a king now, which is a very rapid change. So either he's had a genuine big change of heart, or there's something more afoot there. Speaking of foot, there was no half-west in this episode. A bit more of everything else. No, not the Elrond or the Dwarven story either. So I just need a fart. And then yeah, the Shredder stabs the key and locks it, and we get to basically see the birth of Mordor, or the rebirth of Mordor. I think mechanically Mordor existed prior, but I guess it's kind of like regrown in the time since Morgoth was defeated. But this is kind of returned it to the eruption of the volcano, which is pretty cool to see, and everyone's kind of having to flee, and more people get killed by like the falling volcano debris. Very kind of dramatic. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a very kind of, it was a very action heavy episode. I like the kind of elf martial arts that we see from Rondir and Galadriel's kind of horse martial, kind of like proper horse fighting thing. I'm not doing good with words, and that's because I've seen lasagna and now my tummy's like, Harris, you got a fart. So yeah. And like you can feel like the kind of it's definitely, again, it's like it's really graphic for like compared to like the films. This is like more graphic. The films went a bit like pushed to the limit of kind of what 12A was. There was some kind of, there was one bit where in Fellowship of the Ring, Aragorn decapitates an orc, but like it was very brief and like almost cartoonish. And then I think in Return of the King there was a bit where okay, now I can concentrate better because I farted. There was a bit where they threw the heads of like soldiers that captured or killed into Gondor, and that was quite graphic. But I think that's as graphic as it got. And then there was in Battle of Five Armies, there was a bunch of like CGI kind of like bodies getting mutilated by like spiked wheels, but which is, I thought was a bit graphic, but again, not as far as this. And this was like full on like blood spurting out of wounds, detailed blood wounds, like a lot of gore. I mean, it switched between them, wasn't like full of it, but it was a bit. And I wonder how that compares to things like Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's definitely trying to be, Game of Thrones. It's definitely trying to be the Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings series. We do get some nice kind of quiet moments as well. There's like a good, nice bonding moment between Isildur and Elendil. Where they bond over the horse and talk about kind of bonding with your horse during battle. There's a moment between Erandir and Bronwyn, who kind of like reaffirm their affections towards each other, and yeah, it's kind of like we're gonna establish a family moment. And then Galadriel has a moment with Isildur, and she has a moment with Halbrand, and about kind of getting over pain. It's a nice kind of sweet moment between the two of them. But really, this episode's all about the kind of culmination of the fight. And again, like Lord of the Rings is quite like known for its kind of choreography with fight scenes. I don't think any of this kind of gets to the same scale, but there's certainly like a lot of moments. It's a shame that there seems to be kind of some degree of like wire work, CJ wire work, but that's like fine. It wasn't like a huge kind of amount of it. And I mean, yeah, we leave the episode on a quite a strong cliffhanger of, well, now what? Now that Mordor is back, you know, it's a lot of this is the characters kind of continuously losing in various ways. So it's like, is this going to shatter a lot of the faith? And like, there's definitely something like more to Halbrand. There's definitely something more to Adar. There's something like, we're building kind of the return of Sauron here, who again has been claimed isn't alive anymore, which is obviously like not true. So it's kind of, where does that go with that kind of side of the story? I mean, my words probably aren't the bestest here, but where we go with what we get. I'm trying to think. I mean, I was having to watch a lot of it like this because of the gore. I mean, it wasn't as bad, but I mean, I think the eye bit, I kind of had to like watch the other side of my eye because I'm sensitive to like eye gore more than anything else. Between the eye gore and the bone snapping, and then the teeth in She-Hulk for some reason, I'm kind of hitting all my gore triggers. But I guess, you know, it wasn't too bad. It was just kind of, I wasn't sure how bad it was going to go. And even like the neck slice at the end, there's a whole bunch of people getting the neck sliced actually. I guess it just helped that it was like a lot of it was in the dark, so we don't get to see like the most graphic of injuries. But I mean, it's definitely kind of continuing the whole thing of this being like the lower decks version of Lord of the Rings, where we're seeing a lot of the kind of civilians of Middle Earth having to deal with the atrocities of war. And Lord of the Rings is always about kind of the atrocities of war. I guess at least that's one of the themes of the franchise. So this is kind of trying to that. Yeah, there's still a lot of mysteries around, and not enough time to really kind of deal with any of them because we're moving along to the next part, which is the eruption of Mount Doom, which I have to say is like really cool to see on the screen. Like the whole thing about unlocking a key and causing and that being just there to bring back Mount Doom and turn the land back into like Mordor, and seeing the birth of Mordor. Mordor is such like a powerful image on the screen. Like every time we cut to Mordor in the films, it's such a powerful, like, and the whole like foreboding nature, like the fact that when we when we're in Gondor, you can see Mordor like right next to Gondor, and it's just like the fact that there's such like a boiling area of hatreds that you can visibly see is like a terrifying notion. I don't know how anyone in Gondor could have slept at night. So having seen the birth of such a like terrible place is for sure something which I'm quite excited to kind of see. So look forward to a few episodes. Hopefully they're not as gory as this one, but I feel like this isn't probably the end of all the gore, which I guess is a tiny bit of a shame. I say that just from the perspective of, again, I want to, it's a taste thing. I don't like watching gore, which is odd for someone who practices volunteer healthcare, but there's a difference between people bleeding in real life and people bleeding on screen, and it's the kind of increasing the horrifying nature of it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Udûn. I'm gonna finish eating, do some more of my essay writing, because I'm gonna try and write about 300 words, and then if I'm not too tired after then, I probably will be, I guess we'll maybe play. I think Fortnite's a tomorrow job now. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Again, I mean, there wasn't much kind of talk about. Like, I think the choreography could have been a bit better. But again, most of them like normal civilians. I guess the only kind of heroes were Galadriel and Isildur and Elendil and Bronwyn, I guess, to an extent. But even Bronwyn's a civilian. To be fair, harsh. Lorenzo did have his moment, that big giant orc, and it was quite a decent kind of like, he was moving quite quickly, hitting all the weak spots, but the orc was just like was just stronger than him, and it's kind of a nice kind of balance between hard hitter and fast mover. Oh, and the bit at the beginning where he sets up the trap to bury them by like jumping down and flawlessly kicking a brick to cause the doors to slam shut. That was really cool. I liked that. That was a fun kind of bit of planning and like choreography of movement there, and blocking, that's what they call it. That was a nice little blocking of that bit. And everyone like this looks really like shell shocked. I think my other criticism is when they were healing Bronwyn, everyone around didn't need to be an audience for that. They could have done something to help barricade them into the tavern a bit more. They could have done like, found some more weapons, clicked arms, get ready for the incoming siege. But everyone's just like, oh no, we care so much about Bronwyn, we're gonna like forget our own kind of self-preservation, which is like, come on, seriously, preserve yourself a bit more. But that's just me being nitpicky, I think. Also, the poor horsies who got well, one horse got slashed, and I thought, oh, that's poor horsey. Yes, and I always wonder about that in war, because you never really see it in fiction. Like when horse riders, the horses barely ever get injured. I mean, it happened like in Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. There's the bits where the horses get shot by arrows and fall down. But that's about it. You don't really see the horses get injured otherwise. And you think the horse would be like a giant target that's pretty easy to stab, when cavalry come across. But we never really see it in like media. So it's kind of interesting to see it here. But even though it was like a small scratch, and then the other horse got tripped over by like a spear. The horse was just like, this is just. It was like really annoyed, like huffed about it and walked off, and that was just funny for me. And now we got like, where's Beric gone? Like they're emotionally trying to attach us to the horse, like because it's Red Dead Redemption or something, Red Dead Redemption 2. But yeah, that was kind of amusing. I do like the kind of comedy bit where the orc's like, ha, you missed, and gets hit by another one. That's very kind of Home Alone. And yeah, like I think, yeah. The fact that like a lot of the Southlanders got killed was like very realistic, and I guess it's kind of amazing that none of them kind of lost all the motivation to kind of like survive longer, considering how on 10 hooks they were before. Anywho, thanks. And I guess in the 2 days time we've got next episode of She-Hulk, because I have to watch 4 shows every week now. But I have my final assessment on Friday, so we're not too long off. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys then.